Florida Conservation Innovation Grants webinar. I am Hillary Barnhart, the Assistant State Conservationist for Partnerships. Joining me is Denise Liggett, our Management Analyst for Partnerships. We are going to discuss the Florida National Funding for Opportunity, or CIG. The agenda will be Introduction to Conservation Innovation Grants, an overview of the resource priorities and concerns, EQIP eligibility requirements, the application process and requirements. CIG is for development and adoption of innovative conservation approaches and technologies in conjunction with agriculture production. CIG projects are expected to lead to the transfer of conservation technology, management systems, innovative approaches into government technical manuals and guides or into the private sector. CIG generally funds pilot projects, field demonstrations, and on-farm conservation research. The three main types are classic, on-farm trials, and state CIG. The national initiatives will be coming out soon. Please follow this website to follow along, or Florida website will also post this as soon as the national notice of funding is out. The deadline to apply for Florida State CIG is July 14th, 2023. The priorities include urban agriculture, water conservation, soil health, and carbon sequestration. Both individuals and non-federal entities are eligible to apply. The total available funding is up to $250,000 per awardee. There's a contribution requirement of 1-to-1, and historically underserved applicants only require a 25% match. The project can be no longer than 3 years in duration. Expected overview of dates and the timeline is to apply by July 14th. Anticipated selection date is September 30th. Agreements and development with NRCS hopefully will be out by October 30th. An anticipated start date is Monday, January 1st, 2024. Selections will be made and notifications sent to awardees, and then the awardees will work with NRCS to develop their agreements. Agreements will be for 3 years max with an estimated end date of December 31st, 2026. Now for an overview of resource priorities and concerns. Urban agriculture. NRCS serves all types of agriculture produces, large to small, conventional to organic, rural to urban. As American agriculture continues to grow in new directions, NRCS conservation assistance is growing along with it. Urban farms come with unique conservation challenges and opportunities. NRCS conservation activities can support urban farmers in their efforts to produce local, healthy, and sustainably grown food for their communities. Current urban ag appropriate NRCS practices help improve soil health, address irrigation and water conservation needs, help farmers with weeds and pest management, and promote the establishment of high tunnels to extend the growing season. NRCS is requesting proposals that demonstrate innovative practices in the conservation of natural resources in urban agriculture contexts. Resource concerns associated with urban agriculture are sediment, nutrient, pesticide loss, soil quality limitations, pest pressure, source water depletion, storage and handling of pollutants. And the following conservation practices are associated: integrated pest management, nutrient management, irrigation systems, irrigation water management, high tunnels, and cover crops. These are not excluding other practices. These are just examples. Second priority is water conservation. Water conservation is the most important action we can take to sustain our water supplies, meet future needs, and reduce demands on Florida's water-dependent ecosystems such as springs, rivers, lakes, and wetlands. NRCS is accepting proposals that improve water quality, reduce irrigation usage, and improve soil water holding capacity by implementing innovative ideas and practices. Resource concerns associated with water conservation, but are not limited to, are sediment transported to surface water, pesticides and nutrients transported to surface and groundwater, and inefficient irrigation water use. Possible conservation practices are conservation cover crops, micro irrigation, irrigation water management, and riparian forest buffer. Soil health is also referred to as soil quality, is defined as the continued capacity of soil to function as a vital living ecosystem that sustains plants, animals, and humans. Florida is seeking seek proposals that demonstrate and quantify impacts of soil health, promoting practices and management systems, no tillage, cover crops, and crop rotations are examples. On improving soil moisture, water infiltration, and soil water holding capacity, coupled with an analysis of resulting production impacts on yield variability, and economics of crop production across a range of soils, cropping systems, and climates. Resource concerns are pest pressure, soil quality limitations, wind and water erosion, concentrated erosion. Possible conservation practices include cover crops, conservation crop rotation, residue management, and no-till. Carbon sequestration. Carbon dioxide is absorbed by trees, plants, and crops throughout photosynthesis and stored as carbon in biomass of tree trunks, branches, foliage, roots, and soils. Florida NRCS is accepting proposals that show improvement in the process of removing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere with innovative practices focused on carbon sequestration. Resource concerns associated with carbon sequestration are plant productivity and health, degraded plant condition, organic matter depletion, soil quality limitations. Possible conservation practices include forest stand improvement, tree shrub establishment, nutrient management, brush management, soil carbon amendment. All proposals must address at least one resource concern category listed below. The resource concerns I've discussed with you today are not, in the previous slides, are not all exclusive. At least one of these resource concerns must be addressed, though. Next, I'll discuss the EQIP eligibility requirements. All CIG projects must involve producers that meet EQIP's eligibility requirements. Producers will need to go to the Farm Service Agency to establish farm records. Each producer must have control of the land involved for the term of the CIG agreement and be in compliance with the highly erodible land and wetland conservation provisions. Producers associated with CIG projects must meet the adjusted gross income limitations not to exceed an income of $900,000 annually. Producers must be a person, legal entity, joint operation, Indian tribe, or native corporation who is engaged in agriculture production or forestry management. These are the forms that producers will need to have completed with the Farm Service Agency to show that they are eligible. CIG awardees themselves are not subject to the Farm Bill payment limitations in the Farm Bill programs, but the eligible producers that they work with are required and are subject to the payment limitations between fiscal year 2019 and fiscal year 2023. This is within the 2018 Farm Bill. Direct or indirect payments cannot be made for a practice for which an individual or legal entity has already received funds for or is contracted to receive funds through any USDA conservation program. Examples are Conservation Reserve Program, Environmental Quality Incentives Program, and the Conservation Stewardship Program. An example would be if a producer has been paid through EQIP for cover crops They cannot receive a payment through CIG for planting cover crops on the same land, even if it's a different mix or species. To satisfy the agreement requirements, awardees will provide eligibility verification during their performance reports. Next, Denise Liggett will speak with you about the application process and requirements.
Thank you, Hillary. Next slide, please. Okay, so to find the Notice of Funding Opportunity, which would include all the details to apply for the CIG, you will go to the grants.gov website, and if you enter the exact Notice of Funding Opportunity number in the top right corner, you will actually get directly to be able to select the actual Notice of Funding Opportunity and then related documents there at the bottom. Clicking on that will get you to a PDF version of the Notice of Funding Opportunity that you could print or read from screen. Review your Notice of Funding Opportunity very carefully for details and requirements. And the next few slides, I'm going to highlight some of the details. The application overview, we're going to talk about how to get a grants.gov account registration, the applying for the opportunity, content and form of the application submission, and then the application forms themselves. I cannot stress enough how important it is to start early. The account setup can take up to a couple of weeks, and Florida NRCS staff cannot assist with any technical issues that may come up during the registration process. So any technical issues would need to be directed towards the 800 number or the support@grants.gov website listed there on the screen. Okay, steps to register. So the first thing you have to do is register with SAM, System for Award Management, to obtain a unique entity ID, or UEI number, as it's referred to. The SAM registration can take 7 to 10 business days. The grants.gov registration, which you would be able to do after you get your SAM UEI number, can happen in the same day. And as part of your registration, you will be adding your organization applicant profile, and finally setting up your point of contact authorized profile role. Those would be those from your that are developing, reviewing, and signing the proposal. The next thing you'll want to do is create a workspace. This is a shared online environment where members of the grant team may simultaneously access and edit different web forms within an application. Creating a workspace allows you to complete an application online and route it through your organization for review before submitting. You can add participants to the workspace to work on the application together and complete all the required forms online or by downloading PDF versions. An application may be submitted through Workspace by clicking the Sign and Submit button on the Manage Workspace page under the Forms tab. And grants.gov recommends submitting your application package at least 24 to 48 hours prior to the closing date of the Notice of Funding Opportunity to provide you with time to correct any potential technical issues. Once submitted, the application will be given a number that can be used for tracking the status. Content and form of application submission. As you can see, page 1 is very specific as what is required on the page 1, and it's the cover page, sorry, and it'd be 1 page in maximum. Applicants that fail to provide a cover page will be rejected in the first state of screening. The next, you would have a 1-page project abstract. This is a way to describe in non-technical terms the issue you are trying to address, the objective, and the innovative approach and main deliverables provided. And then the project narrative, which can be up to 15 pages maximum. This should be provide more detailed information about the project, design goals, objectives, outcomes, benefits, and the estimate of eligible producers. The team qualifications, they're not looking for resumes. This would be more of what the team members involved backgrounds or contributions will be towards the project. And depending on the types of activities you're proposing, You should identify what the protected environmental impacts will be. Because this is a federal funding, activities are subject to the National Environmental Protection Act, or NEPA. NRCS is required to do environmental assessments for CIG, particularly if ground disturbing activities is going on. You should cover this in your application so we know what those environmental impacts may be. Provide a declaration of any previous project involvement and past performance. And if you're applying under the historically underserved and veteran farmers or ranchers category, then a declaration is required. There is an example in the Notice of Funding Opportunity of what this declaration would look like. As well as your proposal documents, you will have to fill out application forms. The SF424 application for federal assistance and the SF424A budget information. Those forms can be found on grants.gov under the Forms tab, as well as instructions on how to complete the forms. The budget narrative is a required document that should accompany the SF424 budget. The narrative would spell out exactly partner funds and NRCS funds and how they will be utilized. Any contributions may be included both cash and in kind, and the cost share must be committed at the time of application via a letter outlining the exact dollar amount. If you have a negotiated indirect cost rate agreement, it must be active to be considered and must be attached at the time of application. Otherwise, a 10% de minimis cost rate would have to be requested as part of the application packet and included as part of the budget and budget narrative. Letters of support for the project from individuals or entities that are not project partners may be submitted and should be placed at the very end of the application package. Any support letters from NRCS staff should not be submitted. Many examples of these documents and forms can be found at the end of the Notice of Funding Opportunity. And then what you see on the screen there is a picture of our website. If you would like to receive news releases, technical resources, funding opportunity announcements, please go and enter your email address and click subscribe.
Thank you, Denise. Thank you for joining us today. After you've read through the Notice of Funding, and if you still have questions, please email me directly at hillary.barnhart@usda.gov. We look forward to seeing your proposals, and we hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you.